Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. My name is Dave Holman. I'm a member of the Greater Education Council of Connecticut. We're the sponsors for this program. We're going to show a video tonight it's entitled Ignored and Disrespected. It's how Guilford First Selectman Matt Hoey succeeded in bringing a methadone clinic to Guilford. Before we start, I want to acknowledge GCTV, who made this all possible, Shannon Gale and Matt LeBeau. Matt did all the editing, he put the thing together, and he did a terrific job, so thank you, Matt. I'm just going to read some of this. I first became aware that a methadone clinic was coming to Guilford on November 29th when my neighbor emailed me an August 17, 2023 article from the Connecticut Examiner entitled Nonprofit to Open Addiction Clinic on the Post Road in Guilford. The article featured a picture of the Play Cafe, which is a stone's throw from my house in Sunrise. I read the article and was concerned, but not alarmed, because in the article, First Selectman Hoey had stated that APT will likely still have to go through the Planning and Zoning Commission to obtain a change of use permit, and then they file the application. There will be one public hearing, sometimes there'll be two public hearings. So I had no reason to be concerned at that time. I naively then sent an email to the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission on December 9th asking them when the public hearings for the APT Addiction Clinic would be held. After some back and forth emails with Guilford Town Planner Ann Harchin, I received an email from her on December 18th at 9:57 a.m. in which she said, the application for 439 Boston Post Road is a site plan review by ordinance, which means it does not require a public hearing. Medical use is allowed as of right under the newly adopted zoning ordinance PRB3. Additionally, within the new ordinance, there is no mechanism for the Planning and Zoning Commission to make this application a public hearing item. I cannot speak to what may or may not have been conveyed in the press. She then said, should you file an FOIA request, I believe that is handled by Karen Curcia in the First Selectman office. She is copied here. Incredibly, at 10:08 a.m., 10 minutes later, I received an email from First Selectman Matt Hoey's executive assistant, Karen Curcia, stating, good morning, Mr. Holman. Please see the attached in regards to your Freedom of Information request. Suddenly, I was alarmed. Something was happening in regards to the APT methadone clinic, which was not exactly clear. So I'm going to play the trailer for our video now. Yeah, it was incredible. I did not request a Freedom of Information Act request.
There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear.
The request for confidentiality when the app foundation came here, like I do with any other business owner that comes to Guilford looking to purchase.
What's that sound? Everybody look what's going now. Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going. You better stop now. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going. You better stop. What's that sound?
I just love that song. I just love that song, and it's perfect. Perfect. You know, there's something happening here. What isn't exactly clear. Okay, so my panic over being told there would be no public hearings by Guilford Town Planner Ann Harchin prompted me to send maybe 20 emails to both the Guilford Board of Selectmen and the members of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission, imploring them to hold special town meetings, to hold public hearings, to do impact studies, and to do background checks before scheduling a site plan review for 439 Boston Post Road. On January 2nd, the Guilford Board of Selectmen rejected my numerous appeals for them to hold special town meetings regarding the APT Methadone Clinic at their monthly meeting, citing the rights of APT as a property owner. Similarly, the Guilford P&Z Commission rejected my numerous appeals that they hold public hearings before doing their site plan review at their monthly meeting on January 3rd. No concerned citizen that attended this P&Z Zoom meeting was allowed to speak. Only First Selectman Hoey was allowed to speak. He repeated that the Board of Selectmen rejected holding special town meetings regarding the methadone clinic at their meeting the day before, and in fact shouted down the only member of the P&Z Commission who spoke in favor of holding public hearings on the methadone clinic. With this background, we now present to you the documentary Ignored and Disrespected. It's about 35 minutes.
How Guilford First Selectman Matt Hoey succeeded in bringing methadone clinic to Guilford without public notice, without public input, without impact studies, and without background checks into the APT Foundation or the impact their clinics have had on other communities. Here are the facts. On November 17th, 2023, the APT Foundation recorded a podcast which was subsequently posted on their website on December 18, 2023, a month later. This was an open access, open mic podcast of an interview with Guilford First Selectman Matt Hoey and North Haven First Selectman Mike Frieda. During this interview, First Selectman Hoey was asked how the APT Foundation came to Guilford and describes how he dismissed the reaction of Guilford citizens when they found out about it.
Matt, talk to me a little bit about how you came to see this as an important issue for Guilford, and I guess your experiences of working with the APT Foundation to date.
Claire, thank you for the question. I can really thank my good friend Mike Frieda for the introduction to Lynn and her team. Mike asked if I'd take a meeting with them because they were interested in doing something out here on the shoreline. And I immediately said yes for a variety of reasons. When we had the first announcement that APT was potentially coming into town, newspaper article, etc., I got the classic feedback from all over the community. I got positive feedback. I got the not in my backyard pitchforks, we don't want it here, you're going to diminish our property values, and yada, yada, yada. Again, as Mike said, we have to take some leadership positions, and which I doubt property values in the adjacent area, particularly homes. They're not in a high density area where homes are located, but a couple of side streets away, they are in proximity. But I don't necessarily believe that their housing values are going to drop. This is, there are so many other attributes in Guilford that this is not going to change the look and feel and the desirability of moving into Guilford.
Note that First Selectman Hoey said, when we had the first announcement that APT was potentially coming into town, newspaper article, yada, 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 he was referring to an online article in the Connecticut Examiner on August 17th, 2023, entitled, Nonprofit to Open Addiction Treatment Clinic on the Post Road in Guilford. First Selectman Hoey then goes on to explain the process which takes place when developers want to come into town and how the town of Guilford and the APT Foundation were still in the initial stages of the approval process. This meeting that First Selectman Hoey referred to as the initial meeting with the APT Foundation actually took place on September 19th, 2023.
The APT Foundation is really at the initial stages. We have a process here when developers come into town where we meet with the respective land use regulatory bodies, building, health, environmental, engineering, and of course planning and zoning. So the initial meeting that we had with the APT Foundation team, where they presented a preliminary set of plans, was a working session. It was one where we interact with them. How can we best modify or adapt their plan for the property it's in and the specific zoning requirements, and then our general code requirements. So my staff, they probably understood my position on it. Let me say it that way. They did understand my position on this. And I have a phrase that I'm fond of when it comes to the zoning and planning and regulatory agencies is, how do we get to yes?
Prior to the September 19, 2023 initial meeting, First Selectman Matt Hoey had sent an email to APT CEO Lynn Madden and her team on August 21, 2023, saying, quote, "Word has gotten out about your purchase and plans. We had a brief discussion at our Board of Selectmen meeting this morning, and there doesn't appear to be much concern from the board. Started to get a couple of residents voicing concern," unquote. At the September 21, 2023 meeting, attendees included First Selectman Matt Hoey, Town Planner Ann Harchin, and all Guilford Land Use Development Department heads. But remember, the podcast where First Selectman Hoey stated we are still in the initial stages of the approval with APT Foundation and referred to this September 19, 2023 meeting as the initial meeting with the APT Foundation, was recorded on November 17, 2023. 2 months after this initial meeting. Misleading? Consider this. Through a Freedom of Information request submitted by mid-December 2023, we learned about an email sent by APT CEO Lynn Madden to First Selectman Matt Hoey on March 22, 2023, thanking him for meeting with her team the week before. This mid-March meeting took place a full 6 months prior to the September 19, 2023 meeting, which Hoey refers to as the, quote, initial meeting, unquote, with APT. Specifically, in this March 22, 2023 email, APT CEO Lynn Madden said, quote, "Matt, thank you for meeting with me, Mike, and Valerie last week. It was a pleasure to meet you. Your welcome and your openness to our organization and its potential location in Guilford is much appreciated. We have learned that the property at 439 Boston Post Road is under contract to another party. We will keep our hands in there in case that deal does not proceed. However, we have made an offer on the adjacent property at 417 Post Road and would optimally purchase both," unquote. Besides the timing of this meeting, what is important to note is that First Selectman Hoey discussed the property at 439 Boston Post Road, the Play Cafe, with APT CEO Lynn Madden and her team at this meeting. What is not clear is whether First Selectman Matt Hoey suggested to APT CEO Lynn Madden that she purchase this property. Let's return to the November 17, 2023 APT podcast for a moment. In this podcast, North Haven First Selectman Mike Freda explained how he reacted when he met with APT CEO Lynn Madden back in 2012, and she expressed interest in purchasing the abandoned Clintonville Manor nursing home on Clintonville Road, Route 22 in North Haven.
Tell me a little bit about how you took those first steps, I guess, into working with Lynn and establishing the clinic. You know, and what was the reaction from the local community at the time?
So it first started where Lynn reached out for me, came in to see me, and there was a old nursing home that had gone out of business on Route 22. It was called Clintonville Manor. And Lynn came to see me. She was thinking of purchasing it and wanted my thoughts. She came in, we had a very nice discussion, And I said to her that I think it's going to be a problem because that nursing home, to put an app foundation there, a methadone clinic, I just knew that the residents would really come out against it. And I tried to describe how important I thought the facility was here in North Haven, but the reality was, right in the middle of homes and residents, it would really be a problem. And I'll never forget what happened. Lynn said to me, you know, Michael, thank you very much for the conversation. I really appreciate your time. And she started to get up off her chair, from my recollection. And I said, but Lynn, wait a minute. I really want to try to work with you here. I have another location, 353 State Street. It's in sort of a commercial industrial area.
Why didn't Guilford First Selectman Matt Hoey respond similarly to APT CEO Lynn Madden when she expressed interest in purchasing the property at 439 Boston Post Road in Guilford? He must have known that this property was located only 250 feet away from the closest house, only 470 feet away from a large daycare facility, and only 200 feet away from a Dairy Queen frequented by many Guilford families and children. After that March 22, 2023 meeting with Guilford First Selectman Matt Hoey, we first learned that APT bought the properties at 415, 417 Boston Post Road on June 28, 2023, and the property at 439 Boston Post Road, the Play Cafe, on July 25, 2023. Through a Connecticut Examiner article on August 17, 2023, this article not only was the first notification that these properties were sold to the APT Foundation for the purpose of opening a methadone clinic in Guilford, but is also significant because First Selectman Matt Hoey neglected to mention his mid-March meeting with the APT team. Instead, First Selectman Hoey said, quote, "I've had a conversation with the CEO who had expressed interest in locating a facility on the shoreline to take care of their population that is along the shoreline all the way to Old Lyme," unquote. If First Selectman Hoey discussed the potential purchase of this property with APT in mid-March, why was there no public announcement by the town of Guilford before this? Why were Guilford residents not informed about this methadone clinic until August 17, 2023, and then only through an internet newspaper that very few people read? Why did First Selectman Matt Hoey and the town of Guilford disrespect the citizens and businesses in Guilford by not making a public announcement and not holding public hearings regarding the methadone clinic? At the Guilford P&Z meeting on January 3, 2024, First Selectman Hoey answered this question when he said,
"The Board of Selectmen declined a request from a member of the public to literally direct the Planning and Zoning Commission to have a public hearing on this particular issue. Nor did the Board of Selectmen deem it appropriate that this would be the subject of a special town meeting, because a special town meeting could not, by any action, impact the decision that this board makes. I just wanted a clarification since that question was raised."
why didn't Guilford First Selectman Matt Hoey and the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission hold public hearings before approving the APT methadone clinic?
The impact studies of our town, have we done anything like what it's going to do for our public services? Or is it going to raise our taxes because we need more police and fire?
This is not the time for this conversation.
When is it? You, listen, on that phone, you said you would not do one of these meetings. You said that. I heard you.
I said what?
You said that these meetings are not necessary because you didn't
I
want to
never
answer
said
our
these
questions.
meetings were not
You
necessary.
absolutely did.
I did not.
You did too. It's on tape.
Public hearings are unnecessary. This
This is a public hearing.
No, it is not.
It absolutely
Not by
is
the
not.
definition of our chart.
So you work for us, but you won't answer any questions.
I'm gonna read the statement that I was gonna do at the end of this.
This is really sad. It's really sad that you're
You-
forcing
you-
this
you like to
into
think
our
you can come up here,
town,
but it's
but
not
you won't
helpful to
answer any of
chirp
our
in like you're in the
questions.
cheap
I
seat.
will answer your questions. It's not in
I'd
this
love to hear what
forum.
you have to say.
Oh, where?
Wait
People
a
are
second.
sending you emails and you don't answer
Would
them.
you please refrain so I can read the statement? I just want to set the
Is it more
record clear.
gaslighting?
I want to set the record clear on a couple of things. First off, the Board of Selectmen, the town planner, and planning and zoning acted in compliance with all statutory charter and zoning code regulations. In fact, if the foundation had not proposed any changes to the building which triggered a site plan, the change of use permit would have been issued on an administrative basis by the town planner because it's an as-of-right use of this property, which goes to basic property rights as enshrined in our zoning code and in state statutes. As it relates to public hearing, they're not required, they're not stipulated for a simple site plan application or a straight use of business change. The Planning and Zoning Commission could not have considered any input on the type of business being proposed, just on the site plan changes itself.
Similarly, at the informational meeting with the APT Foundation on February 27, 2024, APT CEO Lynn Madden was asked why she did not discuss their Guilford Methadone Clinic with the concerned citizens and businesses in Guilford who would be most impacted until after they bought the property. By then, it was a done deal. First Selectman Hoey even admits that he was asked to keep the potential purchase confidential and that he honored that request, ensuring that nothing could be done to stop the methadone clinic coming to Guilford.
I mean, you knew this was going to be a controversial project, I think, because, well, it was controversial in North Haven, you said. Why did you decide to wait to have a forum like this and to discuss some of these questions and to discuss location until after you were in a position to say it's a done deal and nothing could be done? That's the question I have.
Okay, so that's
So respectfully, what I would say is we did not expect this to be a particularly controversial process. We are moving into a building that's in a commercially zoned area, right? That what we're planning to do in that building is permitted by right. That was a respectful decision that we made based on the zoning laws of this community. And we followed all of the process steps, including meeting with folks at the city administration. All along the way, we've worked with planning and zoning, we've worked with the wetlands people. There has been absolutely nothing secret about this process whatsoever.
When did it first get announced to the public? When did it first get announced to the public?
We first spoke with city administration in about a year ago now.
Yeah, well, so a year ago you told the current administration, I mean, I read the paper every day. I didn't hear about this till when? I mean, a month ago?
I observed the request for confidentiality when the App Foundation came here, like I do with any other business owner that comes to Guilford looking to purchase property. For instance, I had conversations with Target long before that became public domain information. It was out of respect, and it also could have impacted their ability and the price on that piece of property.
I mean, I think part of the reaction in some of the crowd here is the feeling that we as a public were not respected. Maybe there could have been input. Maybe there could have been input in the process about whether there is a better location in Guilford, which was not made available to us.
When First Selectman Matt Hoey hosted the meeting with APT CEO Lynn Madden and her team in March of 2023, he was totally on board with bringing a methadone clinic to Guilford. He discussed with them the location APT eventually purchased at 439 Boston Post Road, and he agreed to keep the purchase confidential. He knew that the property was zoned for medical use as of right, and there would be no way to stop APT from opening the methadone clinic. It is clear that he had no intention of involving the citizens and businesses of Guilford in the approval process. Guilford First Selectman Matt Hoey himself made the decision to bring the APT methadone clinic to Guilford at this March 2023 meeting. The question is, why did First Selectman Hoey imply there would be public hearings regarding the methadone clinic in an August 17, 2023 Connecticut Examiner article in which he said, quote, "The APT Foundation filed the application and planning and zoning. Depending on the nature of that application, will hold a public hearing. Sometimes they'll hold 2 public hearings. The process usually takes a couple of months for hearings, deliberation, and potential approval of the change of use." Besides keeping the purchase of 439 Boston Post Road, the Play Cafe, secret, through a series of FOIA requests, we learned that First Selectman Hoey actively attempted to control the narrative surrounding the APT Foundation and their purchase of this property. On August 28, 2023, First Selectman Hoey sent an email to Lynn Madden and Ben Rayner in which he said, "Lynn, meet Ben Rayner, reporter from the Guilford Courier. Ben, meet Lynn Madden, President, CEO of the APT Foundation, the proud owner of 3 contiguous properties on the east side of Route 1 Guilford. I'd like to host an introductory call to give Ben the requisite background on this important project and facility." Amazingly, on February 9, 2024, this same Ben Rayner, whose favorable article about APT and the methadone clinic was published in the Guilford Courier on September 12, 2023, stormed into a town meeting at the Guilford Community Center where the clinic was being discussed, wearing a shirt with offensive words on it, disrupted the meeting, and screamed at all those in attendance that they were racists.
Here in Guilford.
Hey folks, I'm going to interrupt this meeting so you know exactly what's going on here tonight. My name is Ben Rayner. You know that name as the reporter for the Courier. I'm not here as a reporter tonight. I'm here as a Guilford resident, taxpayer, and property owner.
Yes.
And this is bullshit. This is a fraud. The person who set this up is a liar, and he is a fraud. And you know why I know why? Do you know why I know why? Because I saw every bit of correspondence between him and members of the town. And it's a lie and a fraud. The only people who are welcome in Guilford are the racists and the Twizzlers behind it. Do you know who this is for? Do you know who this addiction clinic is for? It's for you, you idiots! It's for your children! It's for your grandchildren! No, you have no business. No, you have no business. No, I do have business here. You people need to pack your bags and move to Alabama or Moscow or wherever.
At the Guilford Board of Selectmen sponsored informational meeting with APT CEO Lynn Madden on February 27, 2024 at the Guilford Community Center, Lynn Madden admitted that APT had been looking for a location on the shoreline for 10 years. When asked if she would discuss moving their location to another more appropriate location, Lynn Madden said of the Play Cafe, quote, "It's the right size. It's the right price. It's properly zoned for our use. This is the ideal location for us," unquote. And she would not consider moving the clinic.
It's the right size, it's the right price, it's properly zoned for our use. It has been even before the zoning regulations shifted. And this is why we were interested in the property. we are not patient for us, given the size of the program that we are planning for this community. So that was something I wasn't sure.
At the Guilford Board of Selectmen meeting on March 18, 2024, First Selectman Hoey confirmed that Lynn Madden would not consider moving the methadone clinic to a more appropriate location. At this same meeting, the Guilford Board of Selectmen rejected 2 petitions signed by 450 Guilford residents. The first, that the Guilford zoning regulations be amended to say that medical addiction clinics could not be located closer than 500 feet from the closest residence, nor closer than 1,000 feet from the closest school or daycare facility. And the second, that the Guilford Town leadership must enter into immediate discussions with the APT Foundation to move their methadone clinic to a more appropriate location, an industrial location. These rejections came after the Guilford Board of Selectmen also rejected a petition signed by 68 Guilford residents asking that the board hold a special town meeting to suspend renovations by APT at 439 Boston Post Road until public hearings are held, impact studies completed and evaluated, and background checks conducted on the APT Foundation and the effect that their clinics have had on other communities.
From the foundation's perspective, their willingness to even talk about change. I think that question was asked and answered at least a couple of times at the last meeting when Lynn Madden was asked, would you consider moving? She said no.
The Town of Guilford, Connecticut Code of Ethics, Section 31(1) says, quote, "The actions of a town official affect every resident of the town. The trust of the public in the integrity of its officials is essential. It is the responsibility of each official to act in a manner which promotes trust and confidence in such officials' actions and in the conduct of town business. The purpose of the code is to establish ethical standards for such officials that will ensure that the affairs, decisions, and actions of the town be conducted without favoritism or conflict of interest, consistent with the highest ethical standards." In Section 31-6 of the Town of Guilford Code of Ethics, it says, quote, "An official should avoid circumstances which could compromise the official's ability to make decisions solely in the public interest or that could create an appearance of impropriety," unquote. "370 Guilford concerned residents signed an ethics complaint against Guilford First Selectman Matt Hoey, which was submitted to the Guilford Board of Ethics on February 29, 2024. This complaint requested that a hearing be held into the unethical actions of Guilford First Selectman Matt Hoey regarding the APT Methadone Clinic. Specifically, it documented how First Selectman Matt Hoey had violated the Guilford Code of Ethics when he made the decision to bring the APT Methadone Clinic to Guilford on his own, how he conspired to keep it secret, how he endeavored to control the narrative, how he intentionally deceived the citizens and businesses of Guilford, and how he prevented the citizens and businesses of Guilford from having any say in the matter," unquote. This ethics complaint was rejected by the Guilford Board of Ethics at their meeting on March 12, 2024, where they determined that, quote, "no hearing was warranted," unquote. When asked by a Guilford resident if the board would share their reasoning for their decision, Chairman Wilson explained that discussions held in executive session are confidential. Despite all the emails he received regarding the methadone clinic, despite all the media reports that have documented how upset the citizens of Guilford are, despite the 3 citizen petitions, and despite the ethics complaint, did First Selectman Matt Hoey think there would be any negative repercussions from his decision to bring a methadone clinic to Guilford? Let's listen.
I think the first advice that I'd give to any other elected official is don't have any preconceived notions. Have an open mind and listen to your community. You're going to find more people will support this than don't support it because, like Mike and myself, substance abuse has touched almost every family in this country in some form or fashion. So, and I would say be comfortable in your willingness to take not a risk, but to take the right stance and to do something. In the business we're in, issues flare up, and happen to that. People's memories, are funny, and these issues tend to pale over time. So don't get caught up in the immediate outrage by a small portion of the.
These then are the facts. 1. Guilford's first selectman, Matt Hoey, brought the APT methadone clinic to Guilford on his own, without any public notice by the town, without allowing any public input from the citizens or businesses in Guilford, without conducting any impact studies to gauge the effect this clinic would have on crime, safety, property values, traffic, the environment, the town budget, the police, fire departments, and without performing any background checks into the APT Foundation or the effect their clinics have had on other communities. 2. 3 petitions regarding the methadone clinic, one signed by 68 concerned Guilford residents, and the other 2 signed by 450 concerned Guilford residents each, were rejected by First Selectman Hoey and the Guilford Board of Selectmen. 3. The Guilford Board of Ethics refused to hold a public hearing to investigate the ethical violations of First Selectman Matt Hoey set forth in an ethical complaint signed by 370 concerned Guilford residents. Number 4, First Selectman Hoey has refused to answer any questions from the community about the methadone clinic. 5, First Selectman Hoey has refused to ask the APT Foundation to relocate their methadone clinic to a more appropriate location. 6, the entire Guilford town government, which includes the Board of Selectmen, the town planner, the town council, the Planning and Zoning Commission, the town building department heads, and the Board of Ethics Appeals, were all complicit in allowing the APT methadone clinic to come to Guilford with zero regard for the citizens and the businesses in Guilford. 7. First Selectman Matt Hoey considers the negative reaction from the citizens and businesses of Guilford to his decision to bring a methadone clinic to Guilford to be a temporary distraction. Now you know the facts about how Guilford First Selectman Matt Hoey made the decision unilaterally, on his own, to bring a methadone clinic to Guilford. You now know that First Selectman Hoey thinks his decision to bring this methadone clinic to Guilford was, quote, the right thing to do, unquote. You now know that First Selectman Hoey knew the properties purchases by APT were zoned for, quote, medical use as of right, unquote, and that once the properties were purchased, there was no way to stop the methadone clinic from opening. And you now know that the First Selectman Hoey doesn't think property values will go down, doesn't think there will be any negative impact on our town, and that the negative reaction to his decision to bring a methadone clinic to Guilford is only a temporary distraction. What do you, the concerned citizens and businesses of Guilford who will be most impacted by this decision, think?
How'd you like that? Is there any doubt that Matt Hoey is personally responsible for the APT methadone clinic coming to Guilford? This video is going to be up on GCTV in the next couple of days. It'll be on our website, the Greater Education Council of Connecticut. It'll be on the website relocatethemethadonclinic.com. And it'll be up on YouTube. So please share this with everyone you know. We cannot let this die. So we're supposed to have, we had invited 29 people from Guilford Town government to come here and answer questions on the methadone clinic. I sent out the invitation on June 10th, and I asked them to respond RSVP by this past Monday, June 17th. Guess how many replies I got? Two. I got 2 replies, one from Sandy Ruoff, a Board of Selectmen member, and one from Lou Federici, another Board of Selectmen member. They both declined. We sent this invitation to all the members of the Board of Selectmen, all the members of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission, all the members of the Guilford Ethics Commission, the town planner, the town council, and all the heads of the building departments in Guilford. And none of them would come here and answer your questions. So we'll go to the next part of the meeting. We're going to have my friend Liz LaPierre. She's got personal experience with methadone in her family, and she's got a message that needs to be heard.
All right, public speaking is a little weird for me, but I tried to write the things that I wanted to say down in a way that would try to impact you with as least information as possible. I personally have never had a struggle with drug use. However, when I was 16 years old, I did meet the father of my 2 elder children that are now 21 and 22 and very productive members of society. And what I witnessed from that age until their last breath is the following in just a very short term. In any case, again, my name is Liz, and I do actually live in East Haven, but Guilford definitely holds a special place in my heart, as my daughter has ridden at the Guilford Riding School for the last 6.5 years. So in case any of you are wondering, why is this outsider in here talking about my town, you now know my motivation. So my 2 elder children's father and their grandmother were both put on the methadone clinic. The grandmother was on it for 22 years. I hear methadone is pitched to people as an alternative for heroin that will help get you clean, but in my experience, that is not what I witnessed. Everyone who knew Cheryl, the grandmother, knew that if you were going to have a conversation with her, be prepared with a bucket to catch the tea falling from her hand as she fell asleep mid-conversation while standing in the middle of the kitchen, as a result of the methadone. I know this because I witnessed the time she took it and ingested it to the time she started nodding out. After 22 years of being on methadone clinic, she found out on a Monday she had cancer and died on a Thursday. She was completely drugged up and numb to the world when she had methadone, and if she didn't, all she thought about was getting it as well as illegal drugs. Sonny, her son, followed in his mother's footsteps and succumbed to the exact same fate. They were on the methadone clinic to get clean, but still were habitual illegal drug users to their last breath. Both are now gone. I had to endure all her woes about needing to get rides and calling cabs and the frenzy that would create. The clinic does have reward-based standards to keep people from having to come there every day, like clean urine tests. If they don't test positive for the opiates that they're on, then they can continue to take methadone home on a week or 2 week or 2 month or 3 month basis. However, when I would see this happen in their situation, they would go and ask myself or people they knew for clean urine so they could strap it to their leg to keep it at the body temperature in order to fool the urine tests. What they would do with the reward of methadone is bring it home, turn it around, and sell it to the actual drug that they wanted, which was heroin or crack in their case. I never once heard of them being kicked off of the program for testing positive for illegal drugs. To my knowledge, they would just start the clock back at 0 to have them show up every single day for their fix. Then I would hold my breath and pray they didn't crash the car on the way home as they had done before. It was so mind-blowing to see someone fall asleep under the influence of methadone while standing up actively drinking a hot cup of tea and watching it spill and splatter all over the kitchen multiple times a day. And then to see them get behind the wheel of a car, a torpedo on wheels, it was actually terrifying. I was in a constant state of worry for the safety of myself and anyone involved in their lives or the innocent people on the road. After having witnessed what I have over the last few decades, I can honestly tell you that any clinic that dispenses mind-altering drugs that require people to drive there every single day are putting everyone's life at risk, no matter what town it's in. I believe in the treatment of addicts when it is done in a way that is safe for all. Unfortunately, the needs of one should not outweigh the needs of the many. I do thank you for taking the time to hear what I have to say. I definitely could go on for much longer because there are many more stories if anyone wants to hear them. But I just thank you and hope that you put the pros and cons really to paper and bring that to all the people who will listen. And you guys, good luck on everything.
Thank you so much, Liz. We have my friend Lori Waller here, and she has some personal experience with methadone in her family, and she's going to say a few words.
Liz, you did a great job. Thank you. My story is very similar to yours. Mine has to do with my brother, but I actually had two drug addict brothers, but one was on methadone. I want to say a few things before I start talking about that. I do find it to be cowardly that Matt Hoey would not attend tonight's meeting and answer our questions and address our concerns. We are Guilford citizens, and he works for us, but I guess we do not matter. Instead, he and other town officials hide behind charters and zoning rules so they can push all of this through under the cloak of darkness. Honestly, it shouldn't surprise me because he did the exact same thing during the first town budget referendum meeting. Absolutely deplorable. A lot of people are not aware that most of APT's clientele will be court-ordered to seek treatment, which has been shown to not be effective because they need to want to be clean. They are ordered into treatment to avoid jail time and given another drug to just get high. These are the same people who will most likely try to scam the system since drug and urine testing is not always done. Lynn Madden from APT told us that the nurses, quote unquote, look into their eyes to determine if they are on any substances. When these same people go on maintenance, which Liz talked about, they are given weeks worth of methadone so they don't need to go there daily. A lot of them will sell their methadone to get a better fix, and this usually happens near the clinic itself where the drug dealers and addicts are waiting outside. Methadone is a highly addictive drug. Lynn said they don't even try to get someone clean for at least 3 years. The success rate is a tiny fraction of those treated, and that is why no one can ever give us a percentage of success. They are gaslighting us. As I said earlier, my brother was a heroin addict, and he was in and out of jail. And while he was in jail, they would give him methadone. When he got out of jail, they would give him methadone. But he quickly went back to heroin. I would watch him shoot up. I would watch him pass out. But many times I had to bring him to get his methadone. And so I witnessed it personally as to what actually happened at this shit show. When they come out, they would go over to the drug dealers and they would sell it right there in front of APT. And they would go to the next drug dealer and get their heroin. It is just insane that we're allowing this to come to Guilford by a Dairy Queen, by a child care facility, and by houses. This belongs in an industrial parkway or park area that has security and can keep our citizens safe. Unfortunately, neither one of my brothers made it. And I don't think that methadone or any other kind of treatment would have helped them. They needed to want to get clean, and they didn't want to get clean. So hopefully we can get this facility moved to a different location so it doesn't impact the citizens of Connecticut, but Matt Hoey doesn't care about us at all.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, I now want to introduce my friend Court Rodnowski. He is the chairman of the Greater Education Council of Connecticut. He is the editor and publisher of the Yankee T News, and he is also a real estate agent. So he's going to speak a little bit about how methadone clinics impact the property values.
Thanks for coming. I'm just going to put in a quick plug for my real estate services. Yeah, I had to do it, you know. So anybody who has any special needs, think of me as a resource. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about real estate. Now, so I put together a PowerPoint presentation, property values and methadone clinics. Can we go to the next one? Thanks. All right, I need to point out that, I'm sorry?
I charge extra.
All right. I will treat you well, don't worry. So, I was given a couple weeks basically to put this together and everything else. So, as you can see here, the problem is there are no clear answers. And these are the themes, if you will, that sort of came through as I kept going through all the information. Uncertainty, because of a lack of good information, inconsistency, personal accounts like Lori's, and I'm sorry, what was your name? Liz. Stand in stark contrast to the few academic studies that are out there. We had put in FOIA requests for police reports, the APT foundations for North Haven and West Haven. I'll share some of those. But then in the course of doing the research, all these other issues came up. Now, they may not be directly connected to questions about property values, but I think it'll be clear that they can impact in some fashion. Okay, and then I think there's a sense after you've sort of piled all these pieces of information together that there is clearly a direction that this is pointing in, and it's not good, if we're being honest. So let's go to the next one. Okay. I did several internet searches. I asked different kinds of questions. I used different engines, Google, DuckDuckGo, Dogpile, others, and it was really hard to find much more than these. So the Baltimore study, the Seattle study, the National Bureau of Economic Research study, the Virginia study, I'm sure there are others out there. In the time that I had, I just didn't really find them. Okay. And I have to add that as I was reading all these different accounts, and then there were these AI versions where you'd ask a question and the ChatGPT version would come up, you couldn't help but notice that there seemed to be some kind of bias in how they're describing this. They're always trying to lean in the direction of saying, well, you know, there's some problems, but these are beneficial, and maybe the things you're worrying about are just not there. Okay, obvious concerns. Move on to the next one. Okay, so concerning the police reports, they're pretty extensive. If I can just show you one here. So the searches were for 2 years. So this one here is just for North Haven. One for West Haven would be way about the same, I'd say. But just to rattle off a few of the things here, road rage is one. Customer didn't pay for order, okay. Yep, okay, sorry. Am I too loud? No? Okay. So there were a number of these where we had medical emergencies, where there was clearly some event. EMTs are called. They work to find out what's going on with the person. Sometimes they're taken to the emergency room, sometimes not. The thing is, when going through these, you see a psychological episode, hyperanimated, possible DWI, I'll just do one more here, let's see. And an assault. So the worst crimes seem to be more rare, at least from what I've seen with these. It's just that the police are constantly being called to deal with one thing or another at these facilities. Is it the best use of their time? I don't know. But does it cost the community? Yes. So the sense from these reports is that a clinic put in Guilford will have some kind of impact, okay? You're gonna see police activity, flashing lights, you're gonna see ambulances. It's just a given from when you read stuff like this. And yeah, suicide intervention. Now, the part about drug dealers, I just need to make the point that you don't always catch them, okay? They're very careful about what they do, and some you'll see and some you won't. So in other words, it's the tip of the iceberg, and the problem may have a bigger impact in the community than you realize. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
Hey, Court.
Yes?
One thing that is very interesting about this location are all the gas stations.
Yes?
So they're going to set up shop in those gas stations.
Okay.
People are going to get their pocketbooks stolen.
Mhm.
It is just ripe for crime.
Sure.
The way everything is laid out.
Right, well, you make...
And they're going to loiter. They're
Yes.
not going to like hop in their car and
Right.
they're going to loiter out there.
Right, well, the other point I was going to get to also are those 3 restaurants that are just up the street. You've got the pizza place, you've got the Mexican place, and you've got the Chinese restaurant. Please, it just seems obvious. But the other argument that some people make is that we should expect that there will be more property crimes, because you have people who are trying to do anything they can to get money to support their habit, and it just stands to reason they're going to try and steal anything that's not nailed down. So, let's go on to the next one here. Okay, now at this point I've kind of reached a situation where there's so many other issues, and I'm not sure that I'm really keeping a tight focus on this, but there are factors, and I just want to introduce them for your consideration. So yes, there's studies showing that increased cannabis use can contribute to what we'll call social decay in a neighborhood. The one argument in this one piece that I read was that if you have increased cannabis use in a more affluent community, the damage won't be so great. But then the question is, how long will you be able to withstand that? How much can cannabis use increase? You have lots of questions. Sex offenders, there was a surprise. A study showing a 12% decline in property values around where a sex offender is found to live. Who knew? Then the quality of life crimes is what I've been referring to. I mean, I see so many of them, I'm not quite sure what to think. I mean, you have all these different things going on. It just stands to reason that eventually the community will be going, oh, did you hear about this? Did you see that? Oh my God, did you read that in the paper? And all this has to have a cumulative negative effect on how this town is going to be perceived. It's just, to me it seems obvious. If somebody has a counter argument, I'd love to hear it. And homelessness, oh yes. Okay, so the only point I want to make about homelessness is that Hartford probably has the worst case of homelessness. In the Connecticut, they have people actually from out of town who come in to Hartford. New Haven seems to be very few cases of homelessness. But again, you're going to be inviting a situation where people who have no other place to go will show up, and they will be there. And you'll read stories about the police finding some guys sleeping on the ground, in the back, in some place. How much of this is going to go on? It's unknown, and that's the problem with all this information I've collected. There's no clear sense of what is going to happen. We just know that it's something that is more likely not going to be good. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Yeah, traffic accidents. Now, I mean, you've heard examples where these people, properly speaking, should not be driving, but they are. So it's going to stand to reason that there's going to be an increase in traffic accidents. What are the nature of these accidents going to be? Especially on the post road, you know, if any one person has an issue that's going to block traffic in both directions, it could be a mess. So see, what are the other points here? Yeah. All right, then what's the next slide here?
Predictable results.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I've been saying, kind of repeating myself, as I said before, I mean, Lori made her point about the gas stations and other places. I worry about the food businesses. They just seem like such an obvious target. And for people who look at this and think about it, maybe the closing point I want to make, or there are conclusions, but one of the things to consider is when you're, and you made this point essentially, when you look at that place, now you remember that Lynn Madden was saying it was the right place, the right plot. Okay, Dr. Madden, how about if you look at this facility through the eyes of a thief, through the eyes of a drug dealer, okay? This is a location made in heaven if crime is your way of life, okay? Now, I'm saying this admitting I don't know what the layout is where other methadone clinics are in the state. But if I was thinking as a drug dealer, I was going to commit a crime, looked at this is perfect. Quick exit, get onto 95, they'll never catch me. It's just, yeah, anyway, okay, so the next one. Okay, so this is some data. On a state of Connecticut website, they list 30 clinics around the state, and I think there might be a few more. Some of the towns like Bridgeport, New Haven, Middletown, and others have more than one clinic. But in terms of towns, N equals 18. Okay, so starting from the top, median income in Guilford is $124,000 a year. Median house price is $675,000. Now, in terms of the average for Connecticut, median income is $90,000. Median house price $425,000. Then for towns with methadone clinics, median income $73,000. Median house prices $459,000. A little surprised at that, and I thought, well, you know, 18 is a small sample, so you could have errors like that. And to me, I'd say I want to take a closer look at it. But the thing I want to point out is the median income, okay? $73,000, lowest in the group. So methadone clinics tend to be set up in poor towns. Logical, right? And the data kind of supports that. Well, what does that say for Guilford? You know, an affluent town being subjected to something that occurs in towns that are not so affluent. Anyway, let's go on to the last slide here. Yeah. Okay. As I've been saying, the impact on property values is unclear. God believe that something's going to happen. There will be numerous quality of life crimes. Local food businesses will be hurt, most likely. I picked police and medical resources as obvious kinds of secondary effects. There could be things that we had no anticipation of, however it may work out. And yes, I will propose, if anybody wants to do it, we definitely could afford to do a study, look at the areas around each of the clinics, do a historical retrospective analysis, and determine whether or not a trend or pattern has developed as a function of these clinics having been put there. So, yes, and as also been said, the recommendation is another location be found, should be in an industrial area, should be off the post road, far away, and I'm sorry, make access at least a little bit difficult. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Court. That was great. Debbie, you want to come up? We're going to have Ted Zeus explain our 4 petitions, but he was called out to Seattle, so Debbie has volunteered to explain.
I'll try to be quick. First of all, these are all new. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for coming tonight. These are all new petitions. So the petitions they were talking about previously, they used already, and these are new ones asking for new qualifications or new changes. Petition 1 is about planning and zoning. If you try to follow planning and zoning in this town, you'll find out that it's a very powerful committee. And the only definition for medical facilities of any kind in the current Guilford P&Z regulation is, quote, clinic/facilities, medical and dental, a healthcare facility providing medical or dental services to outpatients. In section 4 of the Guilford P&Z regulations, business districts and uses, medical and dental clinics/facilities is included under permitted uses with site plan approval. For every commercial district in Guilford, this broad definition has been interpreted by the Guilford town officials to include medical addiction treatment facilities as a right, which has entitled the APT Foundation to purchase the property at 439 Boston Post Road for the purpose of opening a methadone clinic without the requirement for public hearings, public notification, impact studies, background checks, or public approval. So what we are asking in this petition is that the current board definition needs to be clarified and replaced by separate definitions for medical clinic, medical office, and medication-assisted treatment facilities, MAT, or opiate addiction. We're asking for a new definition for medical clinic and medical office. Will specifically exclude methadone or drug rehabilitation clinics, medication-assisted treatment facilities. We would like the new definition for medical assisted treatment facilities to limit their location to industrial zoned locations in Guilford with special permit application only. And the new definition for medical assisted treatment facilities will also include minimum distances, that these clinics be at least 500 feet, a minimum of 500 feet from residences, and a minimum distance of 1,000 feet located from churches, daycare facilities, and schools. So that would be the first petition. So we're asking for a change in the P&Z regulation so that this doesn't happen again. Petition 2. APT CEO Lynn Madden stated at the information session on February 27th, 2024, that more than half of their patients receive treatment for addiction other than methadone. And APT CEO Lynn Madden plans to establish a mobile clinic operation at 439 Boston Post Road in Guilford. And the primary objection to the APT methadone clinic in Guilford are based on its plan to bring hundreds of methadone patients to Guilford to receive their methadone treatments and then being permitted to drive home. If these patients ingest their methadone dosages at the clinic, this means they will be driving impaired and under the influence. If these patients are given their dosages of methadone to bring home, they will be attracting drug pushers, prostitutes, and other criminal elements to follow them to Guilford. The petition asks the Guilford Board of Selectmen to immediately enter into discussions with the APT Foundation to limit the dispensing of methadone at the Guilford Clinic to a mobile operation where the dispensing of methadone treatments will be limited to a mobile operation where methadone will only be dispensed to patients at their homes or places of business. So rather than having people come there, this petition asks that they be delivered, basically. Petition 3. So you may not think that this petition has to do with this, but it does, because it has to do with our budgets and finances in Guilford, which we might find out might go up due to, police being used more, ambulance being used more, and so on and so forth. So petition 3, we're asking to change the language in the town charter regarding town meetings. Section 7-1, notices of town meetings, will be amended to include language stating that any town meeting will be announced via the Guilford mass notification system at least 3 times prior to any town meeting as follows: 12 days before a town meeting, 5 days before a town meeting, and 1 day prior to any town meeting. I think this is extremely important. We find that many of our citizens in the town of Guilford and the community are not finding out about specific town meetings until the last minute or haphazardly. So if you at least were to give them your telephone number, you could be notified of town meetings, and if you choose to go, have a lot of notice to go and a reminder to go. Section 7.2, conduct at town meeting, will now read, all town meetings shall be conducted using Robert's Rules of Order. Secret paper ballots shall be employed for all votes at town budget meetings regarding any motions to reduce either the town or the education budgets. We are asking for this so that people don't have to feel that they have to put their hand up at a town meeting and then be vilified when people know which way they're voting. So if it's by a written ballot or a secret ballot, then this way here, your vote is confidential, and you should have that confidentiality. No citizen shall call the question or any motion to reduce the budget until up to 45 minutes of discussion on the motion has been taken. And this has to do with our first budget town meeting this year, where it was a fix that I think actually it could have been against the law, where they asked for a question to end any discussion on reduction of the budgets. And that section 7.3 will be amended to change the date of the annual town budget meeting from the first Tuesday in April to the first Tuesday in May. And this would allow the Guilford Board of Finance to know if the town will be receiving any anticipated, unallocated, and unbudgeted grants from the state of Connecticut, and know if they will be receiving any savings on town insurance contracts before they submit their budgets to the Guilford Board of Selectmen for approval before annual town budget meeting and budget referendum. In other words, they will have more accurate information. Also, this section will be amended to include notice of the annual town budget meeting to be broadcast to all citizens, again, utilizing the Guilford Mass Notification System at least 3 times as follows: 12 days before, 5 days before, and 1 day prior to the meeting. I think this is especially important. I went to a Board of Selectmen meeting, and I've been going to them lately because you really do learn a lot about our town. I'm the only one there pretty much. But I did learn that the Monday before the town budget, the town planner or the finance director had said that we had a surplus of $1.7 million. So we did not have to have an increase in our taxes because they had the money. They could have kept the taxes as is for this year, and that's what they seem to do every year. Section 7.3 will be amended to say that reduction in the segment of the Guilford annual budget, which deals with municipal activities, may be considered as a single appropriation item or may be considered as individual line items. And that has to do with basically the town side, because when you're asking for a reduction on the town side, they want you to go line item for line item and say exactly how much you want to reduce it, where you should be able to say you just want the town budget reduced by X and let them figure out where it's best to reduce it. Petition 4 is another very important petition. It's to extend the moratorium on medical or recreational cannabis dispensaries in Guilford from 6/30/24 to 12/31/24, to place a non-binding question on the November 5th ballot asking, should Guilford recreational or medical cannabis dispensaries be allowed in Guilford? I don't think the average person really knows what it means to have, for them to bring cannabis into town. We have Madison, Clinton, and Westbrook just to the east of us that have completely put ordinances where they will not have cannabis dispensaries in their town. It's not just for cannabis dispensaries. If you listened to the meeting that they had a couple of weeks ago on a Monday, I suggest you do listen to it. People want to be able to smoke it on the green. You can't even, drink liquor on the green now. They talk about cannabis cafes. They're just it's opening up a can of worms. It has to do with farming of it. and many other things. So you really should look into that. To promote, we would like to have it on the vote for November 5th so that more people could come out and express their views on whether they would like to have this in the town of Guilford or not. So we would like to promote a question on the ballot, and we would like, again, the Guilford Mass Notification System to notify again the 12 days, the 5 days, and then the day of. We would also like the town to schedule an informational session regarding cannabis dispensaries and the effect they have had on other communities to be held at either the community center or the high school prior to November 5th, 2024. So those are the 4 petitions that are in the back, and you know, if you'd like to sign them, we'd appreciate that, and please let other people know that there are these petitions that are very important to the community of Guilford. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie, for filling in short notice here. You did a good job. Okay, now Ken Spengalis is going to tell us what we can do to help.
Thank you, Dan. Before I tell you what you can do, I just want to make a few comments about the overall issue. First of all, to me, the biggest takeaway is when we heard Mike Frieda talk to Lynn Madden and explain to her that she was not going to put it in an area that was formerly a senior housing or nursing home. And she was ready to leave, and he said, come back, I've got another suggestion for you. And he had an idea for putting it in an industrial area. And that's where it went. And he acted in a perfectly correct manner, because he was speaking on behalf of the residents of North Haven. Not on behalf of her trying to make her job easier. He had to speak on behalf of his residents. Matt Hoey did the complete opposite. And yet it's ironic that Mike Frieda directed her to talk to Matt. But somehow Matt didn't get the message. And so he decided to do it on his own. Now, I think anybody who's thinking clearly would not take on that kind of an issue on their own without bringing in the community to discuss it. Why would you bring all that on yourself? But he did it. And as a result, he's taking all this heat justifiably, because this is going to be a permanent addition to our community, and a very negative one. It's not going to go away. Okay, so that's one issue. The other is, yeah. Her question is, what is Matt Hoey getting out of this? Yeah, and that's an important question. Yes?
What also are all the other people getting out of it? The Board of Ethics? Why are they not saying anything? Why?
I attribute that primarily to like a herd mentality, like a tribal mentality. So those that are in power protect the others who are in power. You know? Yeah, it's the nature of our country. And it's sad that you don't have people who are elected to use their independent judgment and wisdom to think independently. They all just fall in line. But see, where Hooey's mistake was, after keeping this secret so long, now he falls back on that it's as of right. But my contention is, in fact, I sent a letter into the Guilford Courier, I don't know if it was in today's paper, basically saying, it was, yeah, you'll want to read that, and basically saying that he should have said to her what Mike Frieda said to her, is that we're not going to allow it in this. You may have an as of right ability to put it here, but we're not going to support you. But we will support you if you put it in a proper industrial area. And she wouldn't have gone along with it if he had said that at the very beginning. But he went along with her, didn't tell anybody, and now he can only play defense and try to cover up what he did. So that's the situation we're in. And it's interesting, when you look at the other clinics that are in this area, North Haven, West Haven, New Haven. West Haven, it's across the street from a junkyard. It's like a metal scrap area, and it's all industrial areas. West Haven, or North Haven has loads of industrial areas where it could be located. And in New Haven, when they moved it from Newhallville, they put it on Longshore Drive, and it's way in the back behind Raymore and Flanagan, you know, and it's all there's a chain link fence around the back of this medical building, so it's not contiguous to a residential area. But our situation is the worst of all four, by far. Yeah. Lori, did you have a question?
Well, I also, I don't know how many of these people went to the meeting with ACT, but Matt didn't do any due diligence. I did ask him how many days and hours he has spent at any of the clinics. And at first he wouldn't answer me and he was getting really, really mad. But he finally said, I drove by the one in North Haven. That was his extent of research. And what time of the day was it? Did he roll down his window? You know, he spent no time seeing what this is all about.
Right, right. And then another issue I wanted to raise is the fact that the federal government, the district attorney, brought charges against APT a few years ago for double billing. And it amounted to $883,000 that they had to repay because they were billing twice for the urine tests that they were having done. Once, I guess one locally, another was sent to Massachusetts. So they were told that they were doing this, and they ignored the feds. And the feds found out in 2015, but from January 1st of 2016 until the end of November, 11 months, they continued to double bill, even though the feds told them to stop. So they had to pay that money back. Now, Lynn Madden makes over $300,000 a year. Their chief financial officer makes over $200,000 a year. So for $500,000, they couldn't figure out how to handle their finances and avoid that. That just shows you that's a big black mark against them. And then finally, the other thing that really gripes me is how there's nothing in the zoning regulations that insists that adjacent property owners, abutters of these properties on Post Road, have to be notified. So if you've got a business right next door and a methadone clinic, there's no obligation by the purchaser to notify those people. To me, that's unconscionable. But they just let that go by. So these people find out at the last minute that this is going in next door or across the street. So, yes.
One question I have is, why do they, the AT, whatever company, why do they care? Why do they care where the clinic goes?
They don't.
Well, then why don't they put it in an industrial area? And everybody would be happy, right?
Right, absolutely, yeah. But they see it as being very convenient for them to the highways and...
Well, but I don't think convenience is what they're concerned with.
Right.
Everything in life is all about money.
Right.
Right? So that's a connection I can't make.
Yeah, yeah. And there's no question that this is a money-making operation. And these people don't get cured.
So why did they care?
Yeah, well, they certainly don't care about us. It was solely a selfish decision on their part.
But they don't care, so
yeah.
it's not even selfish. It's, I don't care.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I just have a few suggestions for what you can do, because if we... Yeah. If we sit on our hands, and we've learned a lot, but we have to do something as well. So, the first of all, you've got a sheet with the emails of all the town officials. The Board of Selectmen, Planning and Zoning, and Lynn Madden. And you need to email them. I would email them every week, or twice a week. And write up an email, and then send it to one of them, blind copy the other, so that they all get the same email. You don't have to write separate emails to each one. Keep it simple for yourself, and do this on a regular basis so they feel the heat. That's the only way we're going to do this. Also, write letters to the Guilford Courier. I have one in today's paper. I had hoped to get it in last week, but it wasn't published. So sometimes they're not great about responding, but there is one in today. But we need to have a half a dozen, 8, 10 a week, so they start to feel the heat, and our politicians feel that. Tell your friends and neighbors about this. Tell them to watch the video, this documentary. And it'll be on YouTube. It's going to be on the Greater Education Council of Connecticut website. It'll be on relocatemethadoneclinic.com. website. Also, of course, sign the petitions. I assume most of you have already signed the petitions. If you have friends that you think will sign the petitions, we will come to their homes and bring the petition to them so they can sign. Okay? We could also use some help. If those of you who want to get involved in a little bigger way, we've had a core group of people, about a dozen people who have been involved in this and spending a lot of hours doing this. Things that, you know, we'd like to be with our family, but we know how important this is to our community, and we just can't sit by and let it happen. So we encourage you, so speak to any of us about that. We each have to take some personal responsibility for doing something. Take it as a personal responsibility. Write a letter, do whatever you can, okay? So, the alternative is that this clinic is going to become a permanent part of our community. It'll be there forever. Long after Matt Hoey's gone. He may go and retire to Florida, and he's going to leave this abomination in our town. So, I encourage you to do what you can as well, okay? Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Ken. August, they got the sign up. And one thing I've noticed, I live right around the corner from where this place is. They're putting up all no parking signs on Route 1 and on Boston Street over there. Why would they do this? They know they're going to have a problem over there. You know, one of the other things that somebody suggested to me was that we get a copy of their grants, because this person who works in social services for the state of Connecticut suggested that they are not fulfilling the requirements in their grant, all right? So we've got to get this grant information from the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services for the state of Connecticut. I placed several calls to people there. I haven't got a call back. It's probably going to require me going up there and asking for it, but it's public information. The other thing that we could do, and this is why we need some help doing research, there's such a thing as a certificate of need. Anytime anybody opens a medical facility of any kind, they have to fill out a certificate of need. And it's like a 300-page application. As of a couple of months ago, the App Foundation had not filled out a certificate of need. So we need to revisit that, and there's a couple other ways we can attack this thing. But I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I know it's
lawyers in the house?
What?
Any lawyers in the house?
Oh yeah. If anybody knows a lawyer that wants to get involved with this, bring them to our attention. We'll be happy to talk to them. So anyway, thank you very much for coming out. I appreciate it.